Anyone? Yeah. Hi, how you doing? They're in shorts. Back here, just in case anyone else comes in. You did it. He's so happy about it. I'm like, sure about this, sure about this. All right. They both did it. All right, so we can just start? Yeah?
Yep.
We don't have a clicker, right?
No, we don't.
Almost problem. Wait, who's eating like pizza and that? All righty, there's handouts right there. So we're going to go ahead and get started because this is chapter 3 and we definitely don't want to keep you. We have 50 minutes, right? Yep. 50. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. I'm Bethany Hansen. Glad to be here and sharing with you. And my full-time position is actually at a place called American Public University System. And this is an entirely online university in West Virginia. So I'm a full-time faculty director and I actually manage online faculty all day. And then I'm a part-time faculty member at CWI. I teach music appreciation. I want to get the chance. So I've been doing this for, I want to say 4 years at CWI. And I've been with APUS for 9 years. And I come from a background of public schools, so I've also been a band teacher before for 20 years, so I have a little diversity in my background there. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about how I personally have managed online adjunct faculty and just some ideas, and maybe you'll have some to share too. Is anybody here actually a department chair or manager? Yeah. And okay, so what's your role?
I ended up being the lead instructor.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, and what do you do?
Online faculty technology specialist.
Awesome. And what do you do?
What do I do? What am I supposed to do?
One of those things.
I manage all the course support for the online program courses at Voices.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so we're all in kind of these roles. I'm sorry, and I didn't ask this lady over here. What do you do?
I'm one of the interpreters today.
You're an interpreter. Okay, gotcha. So I'm curious about all this because I don't want to say a lot of things that are totally irrelevant, right, to the group we have here. So if I don't explain myself and it seems like I'm kind of saying something, go ahead and stop me and just let me know. And I'll ask you some questions too, because I think this topic is important. Teaching online is very different than teaching live, right? And when we take courses online at schools like CWI, my experience there was I was given a blank Blackboard space and told to fill it. And my experience at American Public University is that we have really clear standards, expectations, measurement tools for performance. It's much more clear, dictated, and all of that kind of stuff. So polar opposite of that experience. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit. Run over here and click my slide here. So the things I'd like to share with you today have to do with building community with online faculty in particular, and we're talking about adjuncts, but it would work if you had people that were fully online. I don't think we do at any of our Valley institutions here, but if we did, we could work it with them as well. Communication ideas, coaching, and performance management. And for me personally, and for my colleagues where I work full-time, we link all of this to the vision we have for the university. So everything we do is kind of tied to what are we trying to do for students. And so that institution is students first, student-centric, kind of jives with what CWI does when I'm teaching there. You know, community colleges are all about that, making sure we meet students. And so I'm going to talk about some strategies and some tools and types of virtual gatherings as well. All right, so something that I thought a lot about is how we can help people feel like they trust us and we trust them when we never see them face to face. And I've hired a lot of folks virtually that I've never met in real life and I never will meet in real life. And they work for me and they show up and they cover their classes and they teach their classes and they come and go and we just never see them. We have no idea who they really are. We meet them on the telephone. And so trust is a really big deal. And when I started as a faculty director managing, I managed about 140 online faculty at any one time in a lot of different subject areas. And I mentioned I'm a music person, but these people don't all teach music. So some of their subject matter I'm also unfamiliar with, like I might have philosophy, communication, world languages, and religion, art, yeah. So we have kind of like the group of the humanities type of stuff. We just don't have history, they have their own thing. So trust is something I think a lot about, and these are a couple of quotes I wanted to share with you. A leader's ability to develop trust is crucial. Trust creates greater openness and leads to improved information sharing, problem solving, innovation, action, and commitment. And celebrating achievements and milestones of virtual teams are an important trust building activity. This comes from a book about managing virtual teams. There's a handout back there if you need it. I think there's one here too, if you come up here. Anyway, so if you have a lot of people that are solely online, all the things you can do to contribute to that kind of trust building really helps them be accountable and want to show up and do it with quality. So this first whole section on community building with online faculty is all about building that trust. And so some of the things that I and my colleagues have done is to include a lot of photos and videos of things that happen at the university that they might not be part of. Since all of our faculty are living all over the world, actually, they may never go to a graduation. They may never see us in person. So we take pictures of those and we share them at our meetings and we share them in our weekly messages. Another thing we do is we use faculty achievements and their good practices. So like if I stop in and observe somebody's online class, I'm gonna look for some really great thing I can share with everybody else. And I have this weekly message I send out called the Monday Message, and I just create it. And I send it out with some kind of a snapshot of what I saw in somebody's class. And then on our website, I have a collection of best practices I've observed other people doing, so they can kind of see, get some ideas. Whenever we hire a new online part-time person, or a full-timer even, we put them in a lot of other people's classes to observe right away. I know at CWI, we've also done the peer evaluation thing, which is helpful, but it's still only one person on one occasion, you know, so it's like a drop kind of experience. So when I do this at my other place, American Public University, I try to give people 2 or 3 other folks to watch at the same time, because everybody does things differently. For example, one philosophy guy might ask questions solely and go back and ask more and more questions. Another one might just really converse with paragraphs and paragraphs of dialogue going back and forth. I find a lot of folks that are doing that are using Dragon Dictate, you know, so they can actually get a lot of conversation in without typing forever. So I like to do that. And then also voluntary service opportunities. If you were in here for that presentation that just ended, I kind of cut the last like 15 minutes of it. I think it was Michelle, what's her name? She was talking about how much she would love it if adjuncts would volunteer to do a thing or two and it could go on their visa. I've done the same thing at my online school. And really, it's surprising to me how many will volunteer when you say, I need someone to review this curriculum. We don't have any full-timers that can do it. It's non-paid, but we'll put it on your vita, or you could put it on your vita, and we put it in our thing called digital measures where we keep track of all vita stuff. I'll always have 2 or 3 volunteer. So even though they're not getting paid for it, we always get folks. And I really think the reason for that is that we're tying it back to the vision and mission of our university. And when a lot of them teach at 3 or 4 different institutions, they'll say if they have to give one up, it's not going to be us, because they love our mission, even though we don't pay them as much as other schools do. So as long as we're always kind of putting that out there and reinforcing it with what we do, they actually love this kind of stuff. Surprising to me every time it happens. But anybody else have that experience where you can get people to volunteer? No?
Yeah.
A little bit? You have? Mm-hmm. What's that been like for you?
It's been good when we get, especially when adjuncts come to volunteer. Our department, we're a department of 3 full-time and about 20 adjuncts, so anytime we can get them to come out and participate, awesome. It's great. And usually it's the things that we do throughout the community. I'll just invite them, and I usually have 1 or 2 who come out.
Fantastic. Yeah. And what's your experience been like?
So I'm over the English department, which is lots of faculty and full-time. So we actually have a committee that's supposed to help identify issues and write recommendations for training. It was originally like 80% adjuncts, but I think we've hired several of them full-time, so it's about 50-50 right now.
Awesome.
And there's other things, we have adjuncts who participate with the curriculum pretty regularly.
Well, that's great. And especially if you can get help with curriculum, because that's such a big project, right? And everyone wants help with that. So if we can get them to help us a little bit, it's a really good thing. We don't often hire our part-timers into full-time roles at the institution I primarily work at. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because we're not growing. You know, a lot of institutions are kind of just stagnant, you know, hoping they'll get more students. That's kind of the place we're at. So, oh, and I talked about shadowing, but I didn't really mention doing some of the extra things one of my colleagues did. She shared this with me, and it's not really connected to these bullet points, but she sends out cards for births, weddings, anniversaries of employment, other celebrations, like if they publish somewhere, she'll send a card to them. And being that they are virtual, you know, they're not likely to come to Charlestown where the campus is. Just like maybe if someone teaches a CWI or Boise State or in Nampa, they might not come to campus very often either if they're just online. So it's kind of nice when you touch them. Anytime I get an email from Brenda, who's been my department chair at CWI, it always makes me feel like, oh yeah, I'm connected to that. You know, so anytime I get that, go ahead.
I can relate to that, especially my dad passed away last summer and I was teaching online. I noticed that the full-time faculty often would get a card or something. People would, you know, come on campus and they would have a card that was signed. And because I didn't go to campus, I actually came across someone and I said, did you know that my dad passed away too? Because their dad had just passed away. So I was like, my supervisor knew, but nothing was ever said to me. So I guess I felt like, why are we recognizing the full-time people and what they go through, but nothing was mentioned to me? Nobody said anything to me.
Wow, that makes me really sad, actually.
Yeah.
Especially if you took the
Yeah,
time to
that's how
speak
I
to
felt.
them. Yeah. Wow. See how important this is, right? I'll tell you, just my uncle died in February, and I got a card from Charlestown, and they had gone through the people that actually worked there live. Even though I'm a remote faculty director, I live in Boise, everybody signed it in Charlestown and mailed it to me. I'm full-time, and I get it that, you know, we might prioritize that. I think we should prioritize our adjuncts for that kind of stuff too. But that, me being a remote person, that actually meant a lot to me. I was surprised they took the time, so. All right, I'm gonna go on to some tools we can use here. And as I mentioned, when we're working with virtual folks and we're never going to see them face to face, it's really important to find ways to actually use tools to make them connected to us, right? For example, like if I'm online entirely at CWI and there's a department meeting, being an adjunct, I'm less likely to attend it. Just because if I don't have some reason to report or something going on, it's just not at the front of my brain. But we have a lot of our part-time folks at APUS attending our faculty meetings because they're online. And when they can't come live, we record it, we send them the link and they can actually watch it. So some of the tools we use are collaboration sites. Like we've used the My Campus email groups, and we put everybody there that teaches the same subject, and email groups. So this would have been like Basecamp or ShareSpace for sharing curriculum ideas and things like that. Lately, we've been using Slack. I'm not really sure I like it. It's kind of a runaway train conversation that's like hard to control or care, you know, the quality of. And I've had some folks tell me that their faculty conversations degrade really fast in Slack because it becomes like very informal. So I'm not sure how professional it'll stay, but that's another good tool for quick conversations. And then we use Adobe Connect at my full-time place. So all our faculty meetings are in Adobe Connect. People are on the phone talking, and also we have some slides and some chat. But we always start out with some interactive tools just to make it fun. And so my partner who runs those meetings with me, he'll always do a Kahoot game of some kind, and he'll ask silly questions about all of us. And then he'll ask something about the university's mission or something like that, and I kind of throw that in. And he likes to throw in something about sports and politics too, just so they feel like, okay, you're connecting to us as people, you know. So I've also had colleagues use the Jeopardy. Adobe Connect has polling tools inside it, so we can ask like, what's a strategy you're using right now in your online class that you'd like to share? What works for you in your grading practices? And they can all type in. And then quizzes are just like polls, but multiple choice, where you're not adding anything. I think that's kind of it. Oh, another colleague of mine actually uses like a Where's Waldo type of game. And she uses it to guide them through the library. The teaching assignment, we call those task orders where I'm from, and faculty handbook and the classroom and all that kind of stuff. So she uses like a hide and seek kind of game thing. So, and then lastly, highlighting monthly faculty of the month and choosing both a full-timer and a part-timer. So that's a strategy that's a really good one because we always think of just choosing one person, even if we do that kind of thing. But if you purposely choose a part-timer, that can help build community too. All right. One more, and then I'm going to ask you for other ideas you might have that you could share with your group. So if you have things you do to build community with online folks, be thinking about that. So this last one, I've already mentioned having monthly faculty meetings. So we do that every single month. We always do it in Adobe Connect. And we try to invite different departments, like the CPL will come one month. Another month we'll have the plagiarism people come. We have a student conduct team come and talk about when to report it, what to record, how to get help if you're feeling like overwhelmed and alone in your classroom with something hostile. It does happen, things like that. One of my colleagues actually has a virtual happy hour with her online faculty. So they get to know each other, they actually bring a drink and sit there in front of the screen and hang out, just like they're in a live situation, which is not something I've done. So I'm not sure how that works, but she says they come all the time, every month. So our university has a virtual provost town hall meeting where the provost does like a Q&A for an hour, and her virtual happy hour always follows the town hall. So it's kind of linked to something else that's going on. And then team building, professional development. You know, sometimes at our faculty meetings, we might have a faculty member present something they've done. Like one of the art teachers here at CWI brought some of the images of art he had gone to see in Europe, and he talked about it and what it meant, and it was just very interesting and informative. But it's hard to do that when you're just online, right? That kind of thing is just missing, that connection. So one of the things we've done in an entirely online group is some team building professional development that we contacted our CTL and got credit for. And it was actually stuff like Clifton Strengths Assessment, Strengths Finder, and some personality assessment on 16 personalities, and just different things like that, where we then laid out the team and said, well, who's which type of personality? If you're going to work together on a project or research or something, what are you going to need to do to get along with each other? You know, and just some basic interpersonal kind of things. And then also let them share kind of what their strengths and weaknesses are in online. So they could say, well, I'm really good at making instructor videos. I'm really good at making discussion boards. I really need help on instructor videos and kind of connect with each other. Which also takes some of the weight off the CTL because their team is only this big and the needs of faculty online are this big, right? And they're not going to even think to ask. So when we can connect them to each other, it can make that a little easier. All right, so what do you all do to try to connect to your online people? I have some, like a lot of keywords and ideas up here, but what do you do? What are you thinking? What works? Any ideas?
I'll share.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, we do something similar to what you've already shared in that we have an online faculty meeting. So I work for Boise State in the online nursing, where we have about 30 to 35 adjunct faculty, and they live all over the country. So it's very difficult to get everyone to meet at the same day at the same time. So we do an online meeting once a semester. We used to use Adobe Connect. I think it's awful, by the way. I hate it so much.
That's all we got.
But we switched to Zoom, and it's so much better. But one thing that I make every semester that the faculty really appreciate is I have a map of the United States, and I put a little profile picture of that person where they're located in the United States.
I like that.
So for one thing, you can see all 35 adjuncts and where they live. So the faculty love that every year. And then we go through our governance meeting, it's all business, but when we get to the end of the meeting, we actually go through each person one by one, and we say, we want to hear from you. Even if you had nothing to share, we still want to hear from you. And the faculty absolutely love that, just getting a chance just to say thanks for having the meeting or something to that extent. So that's what we try to do to build community for our adjuncts.
I love that idea of talking to everybody one-on-one in an online meeting. I don't know if the rest of you have been in online meetings, but it is even worse in the isolation factor, compared to the online teaching you might have. So we're using it to build community, right? And a lot of times it does like the opposite. You feel like this generic person. So I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna try that.
Okay.
That's cool. Wonderful. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, the map, scenario of the map, how do you use that on Zoom then?
It's the first slide in our PowerPoint presentation, and we just do a.
So the map is in Zoom, or?
Well, it's in the PowerPoint, and then we do a screen share through Zoom.
Gotcha.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
What I was picturing when you said that initially
So
was
you
a poll
collect
everywhere.
the data
You just
yourself.
click on it. I would work too. I'm
And
sorry I interrupted.
And then the last thing was one of the nice things that we like about Zoom is the fact that when you get everyone to share their cameras and stuff, that we look like a giant Brady Bunch,
Yeah,
just with all these grids, with all these people in there.
yeah.
And so
Awesome.
that's, being able to see and hear from everyone really adds to that online sense of
I love
community.
that. That's awesome. Is anyone else wondering how you do nursing online? That's just so curious to me.
It's specifically, it's an RN to BS completion program. So they're already registered nurses, they're just completing their bachelor's.
Got it. We have a similar program at APUS actually. I don't know exactly what it entails or how much they do, live before they get there, but every time I hear about the online nursing program, I think, how do you do that online? There's some things, question mark. Anybody else have something they do to build community with people online? No?
Well, I think I interface a lot with one-on-one with instructors, and we have a high number of adjunct instructors and a lot of remote as well. And a lot of times they'll have issues in their course and they don't know how to solve them, or they're just overwhelmed because it's new. A lot of professionals out in the working world are now teaching online. And so I use Hangouts because it's super easy. And I like Zoom too, I just don't know how I really feel about it yet. It's good.
Seems to be the trendy
But
thing,
it works well, but Hangouts for me, because we create a calendar event right there and then make it super easy for them to have a direct link from their invite to get into the Hangout session. As long as it doesn't have to be recorded, it's good. But I can screen share and show them everything and walk them right through. So for me, it's more of a one-on-one solve problem. And then they know they have a person that they can go to when they need something or when they have a catastrophe or what might appear to be a catastrophe. And it builds, I think, a sense of community, but maybe not as big as like everybody in a big group, but with the service unit that I belong to.
That's wonderful. I'm glad it's working for you too. So many people use Gmail and Google tools and different things from that whole suite too that can work because we can share documents and all kinds of stuff. So awesome. Anything else before we go on? Go for it.
It's pretty fresh, but we've had 3, I think, adjunct faculty meetings virtually. And having a guest speaker come in and share about what they're doing in their class. But not only the success, but the failures of like, I did this thing in the grade book and this is how this reacted. And it is pretty cool to see how the other faculty are like, oh, I had this too, oh my goodness. And it's almost like a connection piece that it's not just me that's messing up, it's a universal thing. Let's learn how to get through this together. So
Awesome.
it's brand new, but we're trying to do this every semester.
I bet it's going to be very helpful. Because especially if like the person who directly supervises or manages or the department chair, whatever, faculty don't always want to go to that person, right? Because they want to look good like they figured it out somehow. So if they can go to each other, that's a really good thing. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk just, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to mention at BSU with the World Language Department, they hosted a conference on Monday just this last week, and it was different it was the Open Education Resources Repository, where they had the OER forum where all the teachers could come together and they could share their different fields and they could talk about different resources. And it was really a unique experience because they had a live stream, so other people that were in remote locations, maybe they're teaching K through 12 settings, they could also be involved as well. And it wasn't just only geared towards BSU, but it was open into the valley. But the whole point of it, we were able to like share spreadsheets that we could upload to the database, and then other people could benefit from those sharing. And then you were able to edit the document or improve someone else's work, and you could provide feedback to another teacher when they uploaded something. So it was like this whole collaborative approach, and it was all through Google Docs. And that was specifically the OER. They do have a website too for different, that the teachers can actually set up an account and make it up for group. It's almost like a different cohort or something where everybody can collaborate and talk about different projects. It was a really unique experience.
Wow. That sounds very helpful and beneficial. Thank you. Wonderful. Not going to dwell on this section very long because we're actually more than halfway done with our time. And there's a few other things that I think are more critical. But I mentioned all the things that I do at APUS focus on the university mission. Because as soon as I stop focusing on that with my approaches, it becomes micromanagement of people and it's not very fun for anybody. So I always make sure that's our drive. And this quote basically is about how if I'm giving a message to other people about their teaching or anything in their work, I better be living it. Because if I'm not giving the message that I'm actually doing, the message doesn't really come across. So at APUS, we teach online. We also manage the online faculty. And at CWI, as I mentioned, I'm adjunct, so I just teach my classes. And there are some things I also need to do outside of just teaching classes, like turning my OA matrices and all kinds of different things. But it's not really the same as my full-time role, as far as picking up a lot of other things. So I have to ensure that the message I do as a full-time manager of online faculty is always focused on what's going to help them and why we're in this, why we're doing it. Otherwise, it's just not helpful. So basically, the short of it is you are the message. Doesn't really matter what you say, it's who you are, right? So some of the strategies that we used to communicate a shared vision at our institution are to use a team mission statement, even though our university has one. Our department has one too, and we made it up with our faculty. So we kind of decided, well, why are we here? What are we trying to do in our team, even though that's under the university mission? So we have a mission statement. We also share themes from our provosts and other leaders that we think faculty need to know that are online and part-time that might not be reading that stuff. And we heavily focus on the students' experience and the outcomes. And that's what these pictures are. So every year, once a year, we have a big giant graduation in Maryland because the school in West Virginia is kind of near there, and that's like a central location. So they rent a big hotel. They don't have an actual campus. And they have graduation exercises just like any university would. It starts with a big service project. They have their mascot come. Everybody has the whole feeling of a university, even though it's a ballroom. So it's kind of an odd experience, but we take tons of photos and we give them to our faculty in meetings and messages and all these things so they can see the product of what they're doing in that online class. Like, we're getting here with these people. And if we ever see a graduate that's like been in all these religion classes with somebody, we'll take a picture of that person as they're crossing the stage and talk about it at the meeting, because the online faculty feel like they never see that connection to the end result. It's like they come in, they do their little online thing, and they leave again. There's just no context. So we do this a lot. This one was last weekend, because we had our graduation last weekend. And then in our hiring practices, we also kind of talk about our university mission and vision, and why we exist, what we care about. Incidentally, this school, it's really largely focused on military students. So it has kind of a special clientele and a special purpose. It's not just a general online school. They do enroll public education sector as well, but it's like 80% military students. So, so we talk about that a lot in our hiring practices.
And we ask in their interviews what their philosophy is like, does it jive with what we do? And then on our faculty-only website, just like any school does, we have certain resources that we build. We don't have like CTL people or technology people that build these for us. So any university that has that happening, that's awesome. These we all build ourselves. So as a faculty manager, this is my page over here. And every Monday I put out some kind of message that reminds them about a good practice. And it's called the Faculty Director Corner, because that's me, faculty director. And then I have how-to guides where I've made a lot of screencasts about using the Sakai classroom. So Sakai is kind of a lesser known platform, and a lot of folks that teach for us use Blackboard or Canvas someplace else or Brightspace, and they have no idea what Sakai even is. So I'll make little
I'm
things.
sorry, how do you spell that?
Sakai. I don't think it's on here anywhere. Yeah. It's a free open source platform that we use for all our classes. Kind of like you might use Moodle or something, right? Sakai is really unique and actually kind of clunky. But then the best practice showcase is me taking snapshots of people's courses, putting them in there and explaining why it's the best practice, why it's a good one. So they can see examples of what others have done. And then I put links, readings, and resources here. For example, I found a Learning House 2018 study of online students, and it talked about how online students really want to take classes from local campuses. They want to take them from places like CWI and Northwest Nazarene and BSU, because they know at some point they could go to that campus and see those people. So that's like a trend that's really going on, and you can read those studies. Learning House is like an annual study that happens, and you can kind of see, like, well, what are they looking for? In online education, they want a person that actually works at the campus as well, and they also want to connect with the instructor. Not so much the peers in the online class anymore. I mean, it used to be they wanted this community thing, and now it's more one-on-one instructor connection. So we'll put those in here for our faculty. And then this one belongs to one of my colleagues. She's in the School of Business. She has a very formal onboarding that she created, and so we all kind of do it differently. And hers actually walks them through how to do each of these things without having to have a phone call. You know, so they click the little things to get the info. Also, we communicate our shared vision. This is what my faculty meeting slide starts like, you know, and I put the commencement photo or something. And I make a lot of videos where I'm talking to my people and send them out so that they feel like they know me and we're connected. So I mentioned the Director's Corner, that was the previous page, and the videos, these things. Newsletters, I don't do a newsletter. I have some colleagues that do. It's like a monthly newsletter with a lot more info. I do weekly messages, which I try to keep to 2 or 3 things, you know, 2 or 3 key points, maybe upcoming dates, best practices tip, and a reminder of something people are not doing. Like if I'm seeing a lot of late grading posted or a lot of absenteeism or something, I'll put something really specific in there, a lot of reminders, and then happy grams. I'll just send an email out every time I see something good happen, you know, because we don't see those enough. We always get the grams of you're missing, you're late or something. So I try to do that a lot. And then we also communicate our vision with the new faculty orientation. So my job is once I hire people, I have to schedule a 1-hour visit with them one-on-one to Adobe Connect, and I walk them through their classroom. And I also walk them through this slide deck that is a condensed version of the faculty handbook. And it says like what we require. So at this university, we require some things like you have to return grades within 5 days of the assignment due date. And you need to be in your online class at least every other day, posting a certain amount and certain quality. And we require wrap-up posts at the end of a discussion and different things like that, reaching out to missing students and so forth. So I'll cover all of that in the new faculty orientation because it's kind of specific and every school is different, right? Do any of your schools have those kinds of specific things people have to do when they teach online?
There's expectations, but some of what you're talking about, I would not be able to tell if it was happening easily.
Gotcha. Is it in Blackboard?
Yeah. Because unless they go into someone's shell, I wouldn't know if they've done grading.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that. I don't know what Blackboard has on the back end, like from
And I
the
don't know that I
observation
want
standpoint.
all of that, honestly, but
Yeah.
I think it would be hard.
In Sakai, you know, if I'm in my Sakai space, I can see everybody's courses listed on a row before I go into them, you know, as the manager viewpoint. And if I click on it, a little box pops up and I can see different course stats and things before I go in. And I can sort by last login date, last date they posted in a forum, you know, all those kind of things. And I can just go, oh, who are my outliers? I need to reach out to those people, you know. So like if they haven't posted in 4 days, those are the people I usually send something to. Or if the grading is like 6 days or 7 days and we're going into the like
Do you
serious.
have people who take English composition
Yes,
and they have to grade in 5 days?
yes, they do. I've had tutorial sessions with those faculty where I'm coaching them.
Yeah.
And we'll sit there and strategize and go, okay, you've got 60 essays to grade this week because you have this many classes, right? How are you gonna do that? How much time can you actually give each essay in a 40-hour work week? And they'll do the math and they'll sit there and we'll like create strategies for them because it's online teaching, online education is a seriously competitive market. And if they don't like what we're doing online, they're going someplace else really fast. That's also in the learning path study I saw recently. It's like students don't have loyalty to online classes, to an institution for online classes. They're going to go online and they don't like you, they're going to go to the next guy. And really it's just because they need to get what they are going to get. So you better offer them something that's, you know, going to meet their needs. If you take a long time and you tell them you're going to take a long time, that's one thing. But our university tells them up front 5 days. Yeah, so we got to do it. And with those English folks, we really try to stagger their courses. Like one class, the things might be due week 2, 4, and 6, and another might be due week 1, 5, and 7, so we can kind of not kill the faculty member. I mean, we really don't want them to die at the first moment they teach, so. It doesn't always happen. I mean, I've been the person before I was in this role where I taught online, I was teaching English 101 and junior level writing. And I had assignments every week and I was up till 3 a.m. It was horrible. You know, it's kind of like I should have asked to have a course reassigned. And I just didn't think that. So that was my bad. Anyway, so yeah, we do a lot of reinforcement of that kind of stuff. And I was asking, does anybody else have standards like that, you know, that you gotta reinforce?
Well,
Like,
our online programs, they go through a process of like a setup before any courses actually get developed. And so the whole program is gonna be consistent across the board. And so the people that are developing it, usually it's department chair, department head, something like that. They determine what's the turnaround time for communications and for grading. And so it's outlined in like a syllabus template that gets used for all of the courses. And it's pretty standard. It's like 24 to 48 hours for communication turnaround, 1 week.
messages.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the preferred methods of doing that and how to communicate it out to students.
Awesome.
So it's preset, but as far as is it followed, that's the question.
Well, and that's the thing. It depends on whether someone is a department chair watching over you. In some places, that's also a manager role. And in some places, that's a peer role. You know, it just really depends on where you're at. You know, in my job, I'm actually their direct supervisor and manager, and I hire and fire those people. So I try to be as kind as possible, but I always reinforce the fact that I'm not able to be super flexible with you on this. You know, I'm so sorry, but that's kind of how it is. But in some other places, we might be like saying, well, I'd really like you to get it done, but we have no way of following up. That's terrible for students though, you know, because that kind of culture can kind of relax. At the same time, faculty are people, you know, we want to give space. So
I like to think, and I think from my experience, knowing what actually occurs, for the most part, faculty are really on top of it, and they're doing it because they like what they're doing and they're good at it. There's a few that are like, they don't put grades in until the end and they take a long time to get back to their students, and but that's the very few. It's not the norm.
In my managing the online folks that I've worked with, I have found that to be true for me too. So I actually managed folks in the School of Education, and now I'm in the School of Arts and Humanities, and I did manage the English team for a while, and now I'm back to the humanities folks, and it doesn't really matter what subject. It's like 90% of them really are rock and rolling because they love teaching. or they care a lot about the students, or whatever the thing is. So I do think you're right. It's kind of the exception, the person who's delinquent. So I think I covered a lot of these other things on previous. I'm going to skip ahead here. And this, a colleague and I presented on the same topic at the OLC conference in Florida, which is an international online learning conference. And we actually polled those people to see what strategies they used to do this, to build community and create communication. So I'm just going to read some of these because these are their contributions. So they asked students to contribute to faculty warm fuzzies online. They have newsletters. They asked them to share examples of the vision coming to life in their teaching. They share student experiences and the weekly messages. This person said we used faculty meetings, science case studies, I'm not sure what they're saying, in our development workshops, but I need to think more of celebration. So it sounds like they're focused on some facts here. This is team brainstorming, writing a mission statement, walking the walk, talking the talk. This is involve them in defining the vision. Somebody there said they send regular e-blasts, which is basically communication, like some kind of mass email. This is share without meetings and give my why. I don't know what that person meant either, but I'm assuming that means an email because we're talking to virtual people. Lead by example, share videos, walk the halls and actually talk to faculty, and have a mission statement and share it with faculty via email. A lot of the folks that attended that conference that shared the comments here were live on the ground institutions like the ones represented at our conference today. And so when a person's walking the halls and talking to others, it's possible you have adjuncts that teach both live and online, or you have full-timers that are teaching online also that need to feel connected to this online stuff. So that can be really helpful. All right. The last section is about performance management. And this is kind of my specialty in my job. I do this all day and mostly this because that 10% we're talking about that isn't meeting the standard takes a lot of time. So the kinds of things that I typically see when I observe online classes going astray would be absences from the instructor. Ours can be out for 48 hours and no longer. And we actually have sick days for part-timers. So if they have to be out longer, they can use a sick day and actually be out, if they need to. So that's why we can actually hold them accountable. It's because we provide sick leave time. Non-responsiveness, like a student is messaging and messaging and messaging and they get nothing, right? Late grading, no grading. I've actually seen online instructors put 100% for everything without ever opening the assignments before and never downloading them, and they have no idea what's in them. They just give them all 100% because they turned it in. So it's like a participation score, and it's not defensible. And then grading without feedback. So similar thing, just a score, but no breakdown, no explanation. Feedback is the same for everyone. So maybe they write one comment and they just paste. So students really not getting any personal guidance at all. No instructor replies to the questions. Brief or abrupt responses. Can't post to students or the same post to everyone in a discussion forum. I had one instructor in a psychology class reply to a post and just post the same reply to every single student post so that he appears to be engaged but was not engaged. Really spent about 1 minute, posting to everybody. And then blank form grading, discussion forums. Excuses posted to students. I've actually had an instructor post, I'm getting ready this week, do not send me any emails or messages. If you have a question, post it in the discussion forum. So that she could then post in the forum and appear to be present in the class discussion, which was not helpful. So there'll be excuses sometimes about internet too. Like a big message that says all these things are going on in this instructor's life that really should be communicated to a manager or department chair or somebody else and not to the students, because we don't want students to feel abandoned at all. They already feel that way online. So, and then ignoring plagiarism issues. That's a really big one. We all have some kind of plagiarism checking software, right? And sometimes we'll get one that's like 60 or 70%, and then an instructor will just grade it and move on and not look at that or address it. So that can be one. And then either no announcements really poor short announcements or something really uninformative, like a cheerleader announcement with no details about the week. So those are some things I've seen a lot of. How about you all? Anything else you would be concerned about that I missed? What do you think? You can go all over the place, right? All right, while you're thinking on that, I will take you to this one. I'm going to read it really fast and go to the next one. So I do a lot of coaching with online faculty, one-on-one in Adobe Connect and on the telephone. And the reason we're in Adobe Connect is to go into a classroom. And I'll invite them to schedule time with me, send them a confirmation and follow up after. And when I'm live coaching in Adobe Connect, I'll be doing the screen share. And afterwards, I'll ask them to send me a summary of what they got out of our visit. And I'll coach people 2 or 3 times. And if they have the same problem, we'll stop giving them classes. You know, if they're not going to change, if they don't make any improvements. So we give them a lot of opportunities to fix, and a lot of help, and a lot more partnering with others to observe classes and that sort of thing. I also send a lot of email coaching, which is just a message, right? Where I'm going to give them a walkthrough, a screencast, a recording of some kind, a demonstration of like how to grade or what tool. I know some places the CTL shares a lot of things like that. At our institution, they don't, so I make them. And just give them a lot of stuff, because I think when you're teaching online, you need tons of support, all kinds of examples and ideas, and a lot of constant communication so you feel connected and care, you know, and feel like you're really part of the group. All right. And I have a couple of videos and Powtoons, but in our last 3 minutes, I don't want to play them. So I'm sorry, but I have shared my slides with the group online, and I don't know how they get them to you if you'd like to see the Powtoon. It's basically an example of my instructor intro to a class that I share with faculty if they need ideas. And then this one here is an example of us. Oh, I don't know if it will play. There we go. This is a screencast to walk them through the classroom for that week.
This week we're studying the Romantic era. The Romantic era is called that because some of this music is pretty romantic. So where the classical era actually introduced.
All right, and so I do one of these every week when I'm teaching, and I just share with my faculty as examples. Like if you need to help students see the week better or whatever, and I'll teach them how to do it and all that stuff. So they can help students learn better. Whoa, I would like to go to the next slide. There we go. And every time I coach, I'm not a manager at the same time. So coaching and managing online faculty, I wear 2 different hats, and I tell them I'm taking off my manager hat, and I'm not going to follow up with discipline or anything like that after the call. I'm wearing my coach hat. If you continue to have this problem, though, in the future, you may not teach. You know, you only get a few coaching sessions, but I kind of explain all that so it's a safe place where they can ask questions and we can work together. That's what I know when I said disclose relationships. They know I'm their boss, but I don't want to always act authoritarian towards people because it doesn't really help build community at all, right? So I take off one hat and put on the other, and then help them set some goals. Basically setting the stage is what's the problem we're having, create awareness is why does it impact students, why should we care, how can we change it. Analyzing options means we pick a few choices, they could try something new, and designing actions, they set some kind of goal, you know, to fix it if they're having problems. All right, and then we're really big into coaching at APUS. A lot of faculty managers like me are actually trained coaches through the International Coaching Federation. But even if you're not into coaching, there's some great resources on this website that can really help you figure out how to have conversations with people that are tough. So it's the International Coaching Federation, and if you know someone you work with that coaches faculty a lot, you might suggest that to them too, if it's not of interest to you, because I really think it's a great resource for all that stuff. And lastly, I use a lot of automation in my managing online faculty and communicating with them. I personalize it all because personalizing things makes them connect, you know, with you and helps them feel part of things. But I do streamline things with a lot of tools to make this job easier because I manage a lot of people. So I use an appointment scheduler. That's this little ad down here, Set More. Time Trade's another one, or your Google Calendar. There's all kinds of those ways to schedule appointments with people, whatever works for you. I use signature blocks in Outlook. I've created like 10 or 20 signature blocks with some standard messages I send to new faculty when they're starting with us online. I'll welcome them. All I have to do is put their name and I've got my standard message, and it has a link to my scheduler where we meet live. And then I don't have to reinvent my emails every time I'm talking about the same thing. And then templates and Excel spreadsheets, they're the same kind of idea. Is things I might say a lot to people, I'll keep those chunks and then personalize the message around it so it's kind of connected to them. Anything anyone here does to kind of make that kind of communication a little easier or keep track of it better? It's okay if you don't, or if you do the same kind of things, maybe there's nothing more to add. I mean, once we kind of automate our appointments and our communications, I think we've kind of covered it. So.
Fires. That is the level of what I get to
Right?
do.
Putting out fires. Awesome.
And I send people with questions to Darren.
I like more matches.
Yeah, I was thinking about my job the other day. I was like, it's at least 25% putting out fires, if not 50% putting out fires, right? So the more tools you have to put out fires, so that previous slide. I just put a little thing of references up here for some different kinds of tools that help build rapport with people and things. Tools I go to a lot, and they're in the slide deck, so I think you have access to that after this, pretty sure. Okay, so I gave you a handout, and just to close here, it has some thoughtful questions you can look at to consider for the future. So like, what do you currently do to build community? What's your vision and direction for your team, department, school, or college? What performance concerns do we typically see? What strategies do you use to identify and address those things? And then I listed here for you some of the key community building things that we like to do with the online folks. And on the back, ideas to share vision with your team, coaching ideas you can try, and then some management ideas you could try, which were the last things we just talked about. And then again, reiterated those key questions at the end. So you kind of be thinking, if there's something I'm going to do like this week or this month or this next semester, just a little differently to kind of make this easier for myself and make those people feel more connected to me, what's it going to be? So be thinking about that, take it with you. And when you have a chance, look at these slides and maybe that'll help you with a few more ideas. Thanks for being here. We're out of time. If you want to talk to me, you're welcome to. I'll be hanging out for a couple minutes. So thanks.
I do have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Hey, Karen. Hey, question for you about Blackboard.